What is up, everybody? We are live here talking about some inactives bets before lock here, and we're getting some news here on looks like the Titans and as well as the Saints. The big news this morning was Tyler Warren, who was battling a sickness. It looks like yesterday, wound up being active today, so it looks like he's good to go. On Sharp Stack right now, seeing. I don't think anyone docked his odds at all or any of his props. If we're looking at 50 and a half, so slight movement there. It used to be like 52, 53. Tough matchup here for the Colts, especially if Daniel Jones kind of battling the it was cracked fibula, I think was actually what happened here. So in this spot, Tyler Warren technically is the best matchup. It is a low number. I don't know if you can really go chasing alts here, though, because I'm not sure if there's really a ton of upside in this one. Other inactives, it looks like everyone that we thought was going to be active is active. So Chris Olave is in, Bam Knight is in, Marvin Harrison active for week 13. And then both the Titans, Chig Okonkwo and Ellick are both active. And then Baker Mayfield is also active. So nothing too surprising there, I think, from that perspective, but can go through some of the other, see if there's any other movement here across the board. As a reminder, this is our Sharp Stack odds screen, so you can see all the latest movement with the blue odds here. The Marvin Harrison stuff, though, is pretty interesting because we're getting a prop of 53 and a half, 52 and a half. He's honestly been a major disappointment so far throughout his career. And so at this point, we're looking at, Michael Wilson coming in and playing him. The books basically don't really know what to do and who's going to be the number one now. Both are aligned 52 and a half for Marv, 54, 55 for Michael Wilson. I actually tend to lean towards Michael Wilson kind of keeping it up. I don't think that Marvin Harrison is going to make as much of an impact. Now, if I think the big news here is going to be Jamel Dean, because I think he was leaning in. As long as Jamel Dean is in, I would probably lean towards an under here on Marvin Harrison Jr., to be honest. Jamel Dean is playing. So, the Bucs defense is massive splits with and without Jamel Dean. So I think that could be an option there on maybe some Marvin Harrison Jr. unders. Let's see here. If we go to the EV tool, all right, we're not betting NBA right now, so we're going to just take that off. All right. Mason Tipton, 21 and a half receiving yards on MGM, getting 18 and a half on Pinnacle, 17 and a half on FanDuel. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good look here. Bam Knight, under 15 and a half receiving yards. Yeah, I like that one a lot, actually. I think Michael Carter soaked up most of the receiving work there. We played, had to lean on the over last week with Michael Carter, and that was at 1.5 catches. And now we're at a spot where, I think it got boosted up a good bit here. But the Bam Knight under, I think, is a good look. Sean Tucker, this backfield is really tough to go through here specifically because we're looking at Bucky Irving coming back from injury. And then Rachaad White is still in the picture. I think they said that they're going to roll with the hot hand. What that means is really, really up in the air. Like if Bucky's up in the air, or if Bucky comes in and crushes it, I can't imagine that they're going to take him out. Maybe he doesn't get a full workload, but they did comp it to what we saw from Chris Godwin, which was about 35% of the snaps last week. So, yeah, I would imagine that he probably doesn't even start. I would bet that Rachaad White starts. And then from there, if Rachaad White could play the first drive and then not play the rest of the half outside of passing downs. So the floor on these guys is really low. And the same with Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker was third in the pecking order behind Bucky and behind Rachaad White for the last 2 seasons, essentially. So this is just very, very volatile stuff here. Sure, Sanders pass completions under 13.5 plus 128 and no vig. Yeah, I like the plus money on this. The weather is supposed to be super bad. Let's see if we have any updates here from Kevin Roth, the local football weatherman. Let's hear busy forecast today. All right, so yeah, he still has San Francisco and Cleveland at orange. It's not supposed to be as rainy as they thought, but sustained winds around 25 miles per hour with wind gusts around 35 miles per hour. That is definitely That's definitely bad. So we're looking at, especially considering Shooter Sanders and did most of his damage downfield last week. And as we know, we talk about 15 miles per hour is like when winds start to matter. 20 miles per hour when it's like fairly significant. 25 miles per hour is deep throws, and maybe even intermediate throws are probably impacted a little bit by something like that. And it also could impact coaches' decisions to maybe run more instead of pass more. And then we have, Atlanta at the Jets here as well, which is like a yellow-orange. That's like the second worst weather game of the week. Steady light rain early, likely in the kickoff. And that rain should clear for a bit. Then another round is likely late in the game. He said it's wet, but it's not a true downpour, and it's likely not an all-game thing. Winds are not that bad, though. So it's kind of a weird game where the weather could matter, but it also could just be basically nothing. Now, with Tyrod Taylor, with Kirk Cousins, any other things that are going against them is pretty tough to overcome considering the situation there. But I don't know I do think though that like AD Mitchell props and John Mechie stuff is really interesting. Yeah, we see AD Mitchell getting steamed up. It was like 33 earlier this week. And then I don't know about Mechie. Let's see here. Yeah, 34.5 for Mechie. I think both are a little bit light, to be honest. Tyrod's looks pretty competent for the most part. Pitts is only at 43.5, 44.5 receiving yards. It's been kind of the primary target with Drake London out. Darnell Mooney just doesn't really look right, but they've talked about getting him going again. I'm not betting over 44.5 on Darnell Mooney here. It's a big ask for a guy who's shown basically nothing, even as the primary target here for the Falcons. Let's see if anything else has popped up in the EV tool sense. Aaron Jones under 10.5 rushing attempts. We did play under rushing yards, which I thought was a good look. And I do lean under on the attempts. The Vikings are starting Max Brosmer, like an undrafted free agent from Minnesota. He played he played like at New Hampshire in FCS for like 3 years and played at Minnesota. Wasn't all that good. Is like 6'2", 220. I don't know. I mean, J.J. McCarthy is really bad. I guess if anyone can just find a random gem, it'd be Kevin O'Connell. Like, obviously we haven't even really seen Brosmer play, but it's not out of the range of outcomes. He's fine. It's tough to be much worse than J.J. McCarthy. And then Chris brought up AD Mitchell can't even catch in perfect conditions is the issue. Definitely fair. Leads the team targets with Tyrod. It's like 7 targets last week, caught 2 balls. I think he had 9 the week prior, caught 3 balls. So, I mean, we're in a spot where, like, if he puts it all together, he could have a massive game. The problem is we've been saying that for 2 years, and he's never put it all together. And, so definitely a stretch there. I think it's kind of like alt or nothing on AD Mitchell, probably for yards only. I think Mechie's the better look, though. Honestly, he's more consistent. He was a good prospect. He overcame, I think it was leukemia, and so it's, good story. And he was a really good player at one point. So, if Tyrod gives him 5-6 targets, 35.5 receiving yards is nothing. Probably a decent DFS play too if he gets in the end zone. Let's see if we have any other EV stuff here. The Bam Knight receiving yards prop just keeps going up. I mean, I don't know if I get that, maybe, or just MGMs. Just I don't know. Traders are asleep at the wheel. It just went from 15 to 16 for no reason. The rest of the market's at 12. So I don't know what they're doing over there. Daniel Jones unders. I know another group of people that I talked to. Mike Brody from Stealing Lines is on the under on Daniel Jones passing yards. I played some under on the rushing yards at like 11.5, like some rogue numbers there. I don't mind the 8.5. I think like the bar on him running is really low. Like he looked like he barely moved in that video that came out earlier in the week. And I can't imagine like a fractured fibula is going to be fixed here in a couple of days. Now they are probably just going to shoot him up with any, painkillers or anything that they can. But I don't, again, it's really tough. Like he just probably won't even run. So 8.5 yards we're looking at right here on FanDuel seems a bit high. There are games where he's, been fully healthy and he's gone well under that. So, there's always that like option here. But I think that's tough. The point was though, Brody's lean on the passing yards under was like they're probably just going to run the ball a bunch. And I do generally agree with that. I worry if they fall behind, they're just going to have to throw it. And this game is, I don't know, this game is tough because I think that Houston can hang around here. Like this Colts defense is not very good. And the Houston defense is an awesome unit. And if they kind of push back on the Colts a little bit and make them, I don't know, force them to work a little bit harder than just handing the ball to Jonathan Taylor, I think it could be a pretty interesting game. Jeff brought up poor weather in New York and turn to Mechie. Yeah, touch on this a little bit. It looks like it's just going to be rainy, not much wind, but yeah, like any weather here for Tyrod and Kirk is not good. So we probably just going to see honestly a lot of runs, probably a lot of Breece Hall, a lot of Bijan, and then we'll go from there. Let's see here. Any other last minute ones, and we can hop off here. We're getting NHL in here. I gotta do a better job filtering. I don't want to be looking at NHL props 2 hours before kick. Yes, I mean some Daniel Jones passing stuff is popping. Taysom Hill rushing yards under is popping. I know Sharp Group played the under on his rushing yards at 23. It's down to like 19. My initial inclination was leaning over. You saw 7 carries after Alvin Kamara left last week, but then they talked up Audric Estime this week, saying that he's going to play a decent amount. And so I wonder if the reason that Taysom Hill got so many carries was because they just like didn't have any bodies active outside of Devin Neal and Taysom Hill. Now, I'm not really sure if like the Estime stuff is real. Like if it's not real, I think this number 19.5 is too low. Like Taysom Hill could get like 7-10 carries, and it's way too low. If he runs behind Estime, it's like he's going to have to break one to approach 20 yards. He's probably looking at like 3 to 5 carries. So it's a tough balance there. They seem to continue to like Taysom Hill, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is the number 2 back and the Estime stuff is nothing. I do think that there's some juice on Devin Neal. He caught like 4 or 5 passes last week. When he came in for Kamara and then against Miami. Like it's a good matchup. I looked into the combined rushing receiving yards. That moved from like 58 to 66. I'm not betting over on Devin Neal 68 yards. Interesting profile as a rookie, but nothing that I'm chasing, I don't think, in this environment here. All right, one last look, see if anything else comes up. Kyren Williams under 16.5 first quarter rushing yards. These is kind of interesting, and these are popping on Sharp Stack now, to be honest. I don't know like how efficient they are, but I mean, you're getting 3 yards off market. It's like a whole carry. I don't even mind a middle if you have Fanatics. I mean, this is a 5-yard gap in the first quarter is chasm. There's also the option here of like, taking some unders on the Vikings receiving stuff. We obviously have Brosmer playing here, which we touched on. The Justin Jefferson only at 55. I mean, that is criminal. That is just crazy to see Justin Jefferson in the mid-50s. I didn't think we'd ever see that, honestly, for a couple of years. It's sad. Jordan Addison, 31.5. I mean, the problem is I think Justin Jefferson's really good. And like we talked about with Brosmer, like we're pretty sure that he's bad. I mean, there's nothing really to say that he's any good. Like I don't know if there's any real positives here. How someone could spin this that like he's going to be good, but we don't know for sure that he's bad yet. So, I guess, I don't want to lock myself in fully on one take. And like these numbers are already more than adjusted, I would say, for Brosmer. I mean, these numbers are lower than what we got from JJ McCarthy, who was like the worst quarterback in the league over the last couple games. So, if anything, I don't know, maybe play some alts on like longest reception or something and hope to get lucky. Or I wonder what receptions is for Jefferson. Like they're can scheme up a bunch of catches to him. It's got to be like 5.5, something like that. Yeah, 5.5 juiced under. Yeah, no way we'd get a 4.5. That would have been fun. All right, I think that's about it. Let's see here. Keon Coleman under 2.5 receptions. I'm going to reach out to some people and see if he's even going to like play. He's technically active, but if he's on snap watch, that'd be a good look because. I mean, I think he should be like a 1.5 receptions guy. They, obviously he hasn't even been active for a while. So I think 1.5 probably makes more sense. 2.5, I don't even know if he sees 3 targets. I don't know if he plays more than like 30, 40% of the snaps. And if he does, he stinks. So it doesn't matter. And then, Greg Dulcich. The other question, too, is how much does Darren Waller play? Let's see here. Yeah, Waller came in 2.5 receptions. His first game, he only played like 10 snaps. We faded him, and he, of course, just absolutely nuked. And I think he had like 3 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns on 10 snaps or something ridiculous. And so, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to go back to the well, considering they just like schemed up a bunch of plays for him, and he looked pretty good. But I do think that 3 catches is asking a lot for a guy who's old, coming off an injury, and now probably going to be limited in his first game back. So definitely an under there as well. Jeff, good luck to you too. All right, so that's it. If you guys have any other, thoughts, questions, anything like that, feel free to hit me up in Discord or on Twitter. And appreciate you guys all tuning in.